Humanitarian organizations have denounced the deteriorating conditions faced by Palestinian prisoners in Israeli custody, with the situation being described as appalling and unacceptable. Jamaica is continuing to receive a steady stream of humanitarian aid in response to the devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa. In Mexico, at least 23 people have died and another 11 were injured in an explosion in a store in Sonora. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Sofia Fernandez from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. Humanitarian organizations have denounced the deteriorating conditions faced by Palestinian prisoners in Israeli custody. According to the Commission of Detainees and Ex-Detainees, the health of prisoners is deplorable and they are subjected to repeated beatings and repression. They point out that the prison administration frequently transfers them without prior notice, creating tensions within the wards. In this regard, humanitarian organizations demand an end to the abuses against Palestinians and that their social and legal rights can be enforced in accordance with international law. Meanwhile, Palestinian authorities report that Israel is limiting humanitarian aid into Gaza, allowing access for only 145 trucks daily. The Gaza Government Media Office reported that since the ceasefire began, 3,238 vehicles entered Gaza, including 639 carrying goods and 2,564 with humanitarian supplies. Only 115 trucks of fuel were allowed, just 10% of the 1,100. Restrictions disrupt vital energy supplies, essentials for hospitals and basic services. Medical officials warn that limited medical supplies jeopardize tens of thousands of patients. Meanwhile, the international community is urged to pressure Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to fulfill aid commitments and reverse the humanitarian crisis. Only a few thousand Sudanese have reached the nearest camp for displaced people in the days since Sudanese paramilitary forces took the city of Al-Fashir. Authorities specified that almost 1,000 people arrived in the last 3 days alone, after Western Darfur was taken over by the Rapid Support Forces (RSF, while they expelled the Sudanese army after an 18-month siege. Reports indicate that the RSF have unleashed extreme violence against civilians, with incidents of beatings, murders, and sexual assaults. The fall of Al-Fashir marked the turning point in this war, which since April 2023 has left more than 40,000 people killed and displaced more than 40 million, according to United Nations figures. In other news, on Sunday, in southern Syria, there were reported brief combats between armed groups and military forces affiliated with the de facto government. Both groups clashed in the city of Walga after the de facto government attempted to enter the territory. At present, the total number of casualties or injuries is unknown. Tensions have increased in recent days due to military deployments in the west and the north of the country. Moving now to South Korea, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, APEC, ended Saturday in Gyeonggung, with a call to expand trade and cooperation in the face of challenges from artificial intelligence and demography. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, host of the meeting, emphasized that to maintain the prosperity of the region, they need to expand trade and cooperate with each other. At the closing ceremony, 3 documents were adopted, including the Gyeonggung Declaration, which reaffirms the commitment of the 21 members of the forum to open markets and sustainable investment. The second day of the forum was dominated by the debate of the disruptive effects of artificial intelligence on employment and education, as well as the role of culture and creativity as alternative economic drivers. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Humanitarian aid continues to pour into Jamaica to counter devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa. Social and international organizations began distributing food and water on Saturday to hurricane victims that had not yet received any humanitarian aid. Jamaican authorities have stressed the importance of getting aid to communities affected by the storm, which caused power lines and trees to fall. Also, the Jamaican government has expressed its condolences to the families of the 28 victims killed by Hurricane Melissa. And following the devastating Hurricane Melissa, El Salvador has offered support to Jamaica by sending medical and rescue teams and supplies to assist the victims. The plane carrying the aid departed from San Oscar Romeo International Airport with emergency equipment needed to deal with landslides, floods, and rescues in confined spaces, as well as food and medical supplies. El Salvador Fire Department chief said that multidisciplinary contingent is made up of over 300 people trained in emergency response. In other news, Brazil is reporting decreased deforestation after a decade fighting climate change. Climate authorities said the news not only represents a victory for the environment, but that it also highlights the effectiveness of renewed public policies and the role of society in those initiatives. They also said that legal deforestation in the Amazon has decreased by 22.3% compared to 2024. However, for now, climate threats persist, which require constant vigilance and a long-term commitment from all sectors of society. Moving to China, a thick fog covered most of the north and east of the country, causing traffic disruptions and the temporary closure of several highways in at least 3 provinces. The thick fog occurred Friday midnight through Saturday morning, forcing authorities to implement safety measures such as traffic regulation, signage, and vehicle guidance at major intersections. Toll stations were supplied with emergency equipment, water, food, and first aid kits to provide assistance to drivers. With sunrise, visibility gradually improved, and the alert was lifted by Monday. In Kenya, the death toll rises to 26 after a landslide in the west of the country. According to social organizations, the areas most affected by torrential rains and flooding remain inaccessible by road. Rescue efforts are continuing amidst heavy rainfall. To date, 26 people have been rescued and transferred to various hospitals for medical attention. At the same time, disaster management agencies are searching the rubble of collapsed houses for 30 people who remain missing. In other news, the United States government confirmed that the delegation that will travel to Brazil for the climate summit beginning on November 10th will be made up of second or third tier figures. A little over a week before the United Nations Climate Change Conference COP30 to be held in early November in Brazil, the United States has announced that no high-ranking officials will travel to participate in the international forum. Washington's position is in line with the policies of U.S. President Donald Trump's second term, who is more interested in promoting the use of fossil fuels and is a strong detractor of the climate agenda. Moving now to Russia, where the government expressed its strategic solidarity with Venezuela while condemning the military pressure of the United States in the Caribbean. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Russia is closely monitoring the situation in Venezuela, given the escalation of threats and military pressure from the United States government. The senior official statement came when he was asked about a report revealing how Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro had asked his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin to supply defensive military equipment to deter possible foreign aggression. Moscow's support for multilateralism and self-determination is in contrast with Washington's interventionism and one mongering which threatens peace and stability of Latin America. For its part in Venezuela, citizens participated in the second day of the People's Assemblies to propose projects for the popular consultation on November 23rd. These actions, guided by organized popular power, strengthen popular organizations through national popular consultations that have been taking place for over a year throughout the country. This is part of the deepening of participatory and protagonistic democracy in response to the concrete action agenda and the map of dreams created by the country's communities in order to prioritize their projects and submit them. From the early hours of the morning, citizens' assemblies in states such as Miranda, La Guaira, Cojedes, and Táchira agreed on their local needs with a view to continuing the advance of community development. We have a second short break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, but we'll be right back with more from the South. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The presidents of Mexico and Brazil intend to promote a new trade agreement to cement a more robust axis of cooperation on the continent. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum announced she had an important telephone conversation with her Brazilian counterpart, Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva. The dialogue focused on exploring new opportunities for collaboration and the firm commitment to maintain an intensified cooperation between the two largest economies in Latin America. The presidents spoke about economic complementary and opportunities for collaboration. President Sheinbaum expressed interest in Brazilian cooperation in strategic areas and highlighted the need to increase ethanol production to meet Mexico's growing demand, an area of Brazil's expertise. Meanwhile, in Mexico, at least 23 people have died and another 11 were injured in an explosion at a store in Sonora. Sonora Governor Alfonso Durazo said the blast occurred in the center of the city of Hermosillo and that, unfortunately, several of the victims were minors. They also said that the comprehensive and transparent investigation is underway to determine the causes of the accident and find those responsible. Police have ruled out the possibility of the incident being an attack or an act of violence against civilians. Now moving to Cuba, authorities make progress in responding to citizens' needs after the impact of Hurricane Melissa. In Granma province, 135 people have been extracted from Guamo to Las Tunas as part of a province-wide evacuation. Line workers, firefighters, and transport workers arrived in the east of the country to perform critical maintenance and recovery work on electricity and water services after Hurricane Melissa passed through. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Public Health and the Communist Party of Cuba are working together to respond to the health crisis in affected areas, focusing on vulnerable communities and disease control. The priority is to assist people with chronic conditions, pregnant women, children, and the elderly, as well as to restore basic health services. In Venezuela on Sunday, it was the second day of the 16th Book Fair in Caracas, held under the slogan Awaken Your Mind. The event pays tribute to writer Juan Antonio Calzadilla Hreasa, recognizing his contribution to Venezuelan literature. This Sunday, Communications Minister Freddy Ñáñez highlighted the importance of fostering the reading habit and strengthening the country's cultural identity. The fair, which will remain open until November 10th, features 71 booths and over 200 cultural activities. Also in Venezuela, the Nocturnienda Festival closed its 9th edition with an attendance of over 50,000 people. More than 200 artists performed on Saturday in the municipality of Chacao in Greater Caracas. At least 12 stages were set up in the historic center of Chacao, so that people could enjoy a variety of musical performances. In the premises, there were health, police, and civil protection officials to ensure a safe space for all attendees. And speaking of cultural events, over 600 youngsters and adults took part in the traditional educational gathering of the La Llora dance in the Bull Square, La Victoria near Surcos in Aragua State. At the practical seminar, Governor Juana Sanchez highlighted the importance of traditional culture for the development of Aragua families. La Llora is a typical and traditional dance, native to the municipality of José Félix Rivas, which has become a cultural and folkloric reference inside and outside the state of Aragua. And on the baseball scene, the Venezuelan Professional Baseball League confirmed its popularity after drawing in a record of over 32,000 people to the first game between the Caracas and the Magallanes teams, held at the Monumental Stadium in Caracas. A game that was like a celebration for fans, which is evidence of the Venezuelan people's commitment to the promoting of sporting events. For its part, the Simón Bolívar Expo From Childhood to Liberty attracted visitors. The exhibition is a revolutionary technological initiative dedicated to education using digital tools such as artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and 4D experiences to tell the story of Simón Bolívar's life to the country's younger citizens. The event that has inspired children and young people with the ideals of the Libertador Simón Bolívar continues its journey through the national territory. On her social media accounts, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez explained that the experience evokes independence that the people of Venezuela bravely defend, guaranteeing a peaceful future for everybody. In other news in Palestine, with an eye to the future, on October 31, 2025, the Gaza Strip concluded the first edition of the International Women's Film Festival, an act of cultural resistance that was born amidst the ruins and established itself as a symbol of life and hope. The closing ceremony took place in Deir el-Balah, the heart of the enclave, and marked the end of an intense week of screenings, dialogues, and tributes to Palestinian creativity. The evening began with the Palestinian national anthem, followed by speeches by the founder and president of the festival, Ezzaldin Shaal, the Secretary General of the Journalists Union, Ahed Farwana, and the President of the General Union of Cultural Centers, Yusri Darwish. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Sophie Fernandez. Thank you for watching.